with Jamyang Norbu's statement. And I actually, however, I just want to say this first, because that's shorter, that I don't think His Holiness is saying that he would or that it's possible to change the way reincarnations are recognized. I think he's disassociating the Dalai Lama institution as a governing labrang sort of thing, you know, governing labrang or podang, from the actual reincarnation of the individual continuum, which he is. I mean, he's not proposing some sort of miraculous transfer of his consciousness into another being, etc. He's just saying that because the Chinese are just considering it some kind of a political thing, they don't believe that somebody's reincarnated there anyway, and so he's responding just that, well, we can appoint someone who will serve in the Dalai Lama role, meaning leading and focusing and preserving unity in the community. So I don't think you need to worry that he's proposing any change of the way reincarnation is recognized. That's not possible. You have to die and then you get reincarnated.
But you talked about Mother Tupu also.
What?
You did mention the Mother Tupu alternative.
The which one?
Mother Tupu.
Mother
Tupu.
When you haven't died and you're...
Oh yeah, well yeah, he could emanate into some, but then even there'd still be a baby involved. You mean he creates just a completely different manifestation, like a magical
So
being?
we're not too sure on this, because
yeah.
His Holiness' statement was quite vague. Right?
He's just trying to intimidate the Chinese to cut it out. They're stalling tactic, that's all right. Okay, so now, first of all, Elliot, I think you are misquoting the master plan concept that His Holiness brought up in the Laird book. It is not a master plan idea to bring China and Mongolia and Tibet together. That is not the point of that master plan, if you read it carefully. He says the master plan ran up until the time of 6th Dalai Lama. And then he actually says that 6th Dalai Lama wanted to be a secular king because he wanted Tibet to have more power and be less Lama-run. Actually, like you, he was suspicious of the Lamas. 6th Dalai Lama wanted to be a secular king with offspring, according to His Holiness's idea as kind of the conclusion of Master Plan. And this was toppled by the Hlasan Khan and then the Manchu, Kangxi Emperor. But so, I just think you're misinterpreting that, first of all, okay? Second, I think that when you say lets himself be used as China's spokesperson, I think that's silly. But it brings up the larger issue of this independence and autonomy thing. And it relates to the third thing that I want to respond to you about. You seem to feel that it's very clear that the so-called Chinese foreign policy establishment, and you conjure an image of like an ant heap with ant-like Chinese foreign policy specialists sitting in long rows inside some dusty building in Beijing, brilliantly analyzing every word spoken by the Dalai Lama and doing something intelligent, whereas meanwhile, any kind of such foreign policy bureaucracy, Chinese or American or any, has a great habit of shooting themselves in the foot all the time. And I'd like to know, if you think that they've run rings around the Dalai Lama, I would really like to know, like, which Chinese foreign minister or president or anybody has gotten the Nobel Peace Prize, a Congressional Gold Medal, is beloved everywhere on the planet. I'd like to know which of them has really achieved such a thing. As far as Tibet still being crushed by China, that is an imperialist thing that is going on, but that's not his fault because he made some misjudgment. Now, in the line of that, and this is more, I think, of interest to everyone, I would like to say that the idea that the Dalai Lama surrendered Tibetan independence is ridiculous and idiotic. It's an emotional thing that people can jump up and scream, oh, what happened to our independence? But the Chinese are smarter than this kind of Tibetan patriot, I have to say. Because the Chinese constantly say, he wants independence. We don't believe this autonomy stuff. And actually, if you look at what he has proposed, the reuniting of the 10 autonomous prefectures, 10 or 11 autonomous prefectures of the other states that were split out way back. Even the Manchus were trying to split off what they call inner Tibet. Qinghai province is entirely split off into some supposed new province that they made. So the demand that those are all reunified before there's any discussion of Tibet, and that the Tibet Autonomous Region be true Tibet and include the 2/3 of the Tibetans and the other half of the Tibetan territory. That's surrendering? That's not surrendering about that. That's uniting the whole Tibet Autonomous Region into one thing. Second, the demand for an internationally recognized plebiscite, and His Holiness saying that he cannot himself personally say, yeah, we'll join China. He doesn't have such authority. Tibetans have to give their own vote. So the fact that there would be an internationally supervised plebiscite within this reunified, original size Tibet, as Tibet should be, those two steps, then he says, well, within that plebiscite, and within that, I personally, the Dalai Lama, will campaign within the democratic framework of a plebiscite, and I will request my citizens, subjects, colleagues, fellow Tibetans, to vote to join as a truly autonomous region of China. That's what I will do. Elliot can run against him, and he can campaign for, vote for independence. And then the Chinese would have to reinvade, and it would be very embarrassing. I mean, he's not surrender for the Dalai Lama, that these supposed great hotheads, we want only independence, we don't care if we go down in flames, who say that and then create division. That's what creates division. This surrender would be very simple. His Holiness doesn't have to, he just gets on an airplane, flies to Beijing. And he allows himself to be put under house arrest in Beijing. Next door to, who's there? Sihanouk, what other puppets do they have there? And then he's made a member of the parliament, and he never gets to talk to the press. And end of story. They don't have to wait for him to die. That's a surrender. Then they say, we already give autonomy, that's it, forget it. So that's surrender. Saying he wants autonomy according to his proposal is just another route to independence, of course. But then it's saying, well, realistically, if we were independent, who would we work with? It reminds me, I can tell a little anecdote here. Several trips ago, not the last one, but a number of trips ago, I'm allowed to take short trips in Tibet. Or at least I was. I think I may be running to the end of my visa string soon. But I did, and one trip going way out into western Tibet, my tent was always placed nearby the driver's tent, the truck drivers, the jeep drivers, all of the crew, who were Tibetans. And so I would overhear their conversations. In fact, they kept me up talking late, because they had a fire in their tent, and I was freezing my ass off with my sleeping bag. And they would therefore talk late. And the argument was as follows, because as we went out there in western Tibet, all these Chinese trucks passed us with borax, huge trucks would pass us on the road and would eat their dust as they were stealing the borax, which they sell in the international market. So the debate that went on for a week by these drivers was, there were two sides to the debate. And one said, when we get our independence, we're not going to let those damn Chinese have one ounce of our borax. And the other one was saying, don't be stupid. Once we're independent, we might as well deal with them. If we just give it all to the Westerners, they'll give us a lousy price. We're used to dealing with the Chinese, let them bid on it. Why should we punish them? And so they tormented us for a long time, but we'll do business with them anyway. And by the end of the thing, who won the debate? The ones who said they'd do business with the Chinese. The other guys were laughed out of the tent. That they would think after they were independent that they wouldn't have to deal with China. They were kind of debated out of the tent. Over 5 nights, long nights, I was complaining. I was being kept awake. I was with the guys who didn't want to deal with the Chinese. Sell it all to the Americans. Cheap. They'll start a borax company. No, I'm just kidding. So the Dalai Lama, His Holiness, has in no way, this autonomy thing, and then your idea, Elliot, that when he says to Angela Merkel, we'll be happy with autonomy, true autonomy, of course, not this fake crap that they claim they're giving now. True autonomy. That's how he can see Angela Merkel. Because all the diplomats in all the foreign countries are just greedy for China's money and for their trade. And if he went shouting independence, he would not have access to the planet. He wouldn't get visas. He wouldn't have built this huge international movement, which I would argue, with which the Dalai Lama has run rings around the Chinese foreign policy establishment, to the contrary of what you say, rings around them, so much so that the Chinese always are wondering, and I've had sort of probes of that type, where we get the money in the Tibetan movement. How do we get all the PR advice and the expensive public relations consulting to have such a huge profile in the world when so many other, genocided groups and things do not? How do we have such a huge profile and sympathy from the world's people? And they can't believe that we don't have any high-paid thing. We're all broke all the time. We're all scraping money together because the official world of high money is all playing footsie with China and dealing in the diplomatic web of lies that has been going on since the Young Husband expedition and earlier, since the British time, about Tibet. So His Holiness is being realistic, actually, not idealistic. And he is not working on revelation, he's working on clever, amdo, peasant farmer, common sense. Okay, that's what I have to say.